All right, we waited for the tick. It is quarter past. Whatever hour you are in, whatever time zone you are in, regardless, we are thrilled to welcome you to this session. My name is Stephanie Heald, and I am the department head for the early childhood programs here at UAGC and the proud host for this session. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with other TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for the presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I am pleased to introduce you to an amazing presentation team. I'm going to start with Yolanda Hill. Yolanda Hill is an assistant professor and academic coordinator for clinical education in Alabama State University's Health Information Management Department and comes to us with a great deal of experience, as you can see on the screen. She is pursuing her PhD in organizational leadership and management at Columbia International University, and it is expected so very soon. We're very proud of her for that. Dr. Bridgette Stasher Booker is an associate professor and chair of Alabama State University's Health Information Management Program and principal investigator of the LU-RRTC grant. She holds a doctorate in public analysis and an MBA in information management, and has an abundance of incredible projects that really make a difference, as you can see on the screen. And finally, McMeans is an assistant professor in the Health Information Management Department at Alabama State University's College of Health Sciences. She brings a wealth of experience over 7 years alongside her vast educational background and her earned credentials. Wow, I could not be more honored to share this incredible team with you, and I cannot wait to hear more about actionable leadership in action. Presenters, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Accountable Leadership in Action, Real-World Strategies to Build a Culture of Continuous Learning. When we think about accountability, our minds often go straight to supervision, evaluations, or rules, but true accountability in leadership goes much deeper than that. It's about integrity, consistency, and modeling the kind of behavior that earns trust. When people see that you lead with fairness and purpose, they feel safe to take ownership of their work. That sense of safety gives them the permission to learn, innovate, and take initiative because they know even when things don't go as planned, they'll be supported rather than criticized. So that's the kind of culture we're exploring today, one where accountability and learning work hand in hand. Throughout this session, we'll connect leadership values with learning theory to show how these ideas can take root in daily practice. By the end, you'll have strategies that screen both your confidence and your organization's capacity to keep learning together. We'll start by looking at 5 leadership values that shape accountability leadership: building people up, loyalty, trustworthiness, open communication, and commitment to quality. These aren't abstract ideas. They're everyday actions that shape how people experience leadership and determine whether a workplace feels supportive, empowering, and growth-oriented. We'll then connect these values to Senge's 5 disciplines and Cozy's and Posner's 5 practices of exemplary leadership frameworks. This will help us move from individual accountability to team-wide responsibility, the foundation that any true learning culture needs. And then finally, we'll pause throughout the sessions for brief reflection polls. And these are not tests, they're simply checkpoints to help you connect the ideas we're discussing to your own professional reality and growth as a leader. Next slide, please. Now, as we look at the goals for today, we want participants to be able to apply value-based leadership strategies that encourage growth, accountability, and continuous learning. We want to be able to identify and challenge limiting mental models that restrict innovation and progress. We also want to examine how mentorship and modeling behavior reinforce collective learning and accountability. These objectives are intentionally people-centered. Leadership is not about titles or position. It's about modeling what you want others to see. When we apply value-based strategies, we build cultures where accountability is enforced. It becomes natural. Challenging limiting mental models means being willing to look inward and ask tough questions like, what assumptions am I making that could be holding my team back? Mentorship, on the other hand, transforms accountability into a cycle of support. When leaders guide others through modeling, learning becomes a part of the organization's DNA. Next slide, please. Now we've reached our first poll. And in this poll, we're saying, what matters most to you? So if you will, would you take a moment to respond and think about what drives you to engage in learning? There are no right or wrong answers to this. This reflections helps you understand what motivates you so you can model the same motivation for others. Okay, I see we have some results saying a good 40% say the opportunities for growth and development. 30% says feeling supported and trusted by leadership. And then we have 10% triple tied with being part of a collaborative team environment, and then seeing a clear vision and purpose for learning, and then accessing resources and tools that support learning. Thank you so much for taking that poll. Next slide, please. Here we want to look at what is accountable leadership. Accountable leadership is built on reliability, honesty, and follow through. It means taking responsibility for outcomes, whether it's good and bad, and communicating openly about challenges. An accountable leader focuses on progress, not perfection. They acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, and move forward with intention. This kind of honesty builds credibility. Think about a leader that you might have admired. Chances are they weren't perfect, but they were consistent. You trusted them because they communicated clearly. They took ownership. They didn't shift blame. And that's the heart of accountability. When accountability is visible at the leadership level, it creates permission for others to learn. Employees, students, and peers become more open to feedback because they see the growth is valued more than control. In this type of culture, learning becomes a part of the workflow rather than a separate event. It transforms your daily operations into opportunities for development. Next, we're going to look at the core leadership values from Professor McMeans. Next slide.
Good afternoon. Yes. So here we're going to talk about the 5 values that sustain accountable leadership. The first one is going to be building people up, which is investing time into helping others reach their full potential. Leaders who lift up others demonstrate success is collective and not individual. Loyalty, it fosters a sense of belonging. When people know that their leader stands with them, even when things go wrong, it makes it easier to develop trust and commitment in return. Trustworthiness is the glue that holds everything together. A team is known to thrive when they feel that they can depend and lean on their leader's word and judgment. Open communication means keeping information flowing and prevents misunderstandings. It's also an act of respect, of listening and responding honestly, showing people that they matter. Commitment to quality, it reinforces accountability by setting a clear standard of excellence. It says we don't cut corners because we care about our outcomes and our people. When leaders embrace these 5 values, they shape the emotional climate of their organization. People feel supported, safe, and motivated to do their best work. Next slide, please. Here we're going to discuss the theoretical foundation. Peter Senge's 5 disciplines provide a framework for how organizations learn and adapt over a period of time. They emphasize personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, team learning, and systems thinking. These disciplines helps us see that learning isn't just happening in the classrooms, it's happening in conversations, decisions, and actions every day. Cowsers and Posner's 5 practices of exemplary leaderships gives us the how. They show us what leaders need to do to bring these disciplines to real life. They model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enables others to act, and encourages the heart. When combined, these 2 frameworks remind us that effective leadership requires both mindset and method. Senge shows us how learning happens in systems, while Cowsers and Posner's shows us how leaders activate those systems through relationships, communication, and trust. This combination, it transforms accountability from an obligation into an opportunity for innovation and collaboration. Next slide, please. Now we have reached our second poll that's talking about Senge's connections. Here, we want you all to take a moment just to reflect on what stands out to you. Awareness of where you want to grow is the first step toward developing strong leadership habits. So if everybody could take a moment to answer this poll just to see where you want to be as far as your leadership growth. Okay, not sure if it's going to show us the results. Okay, here we are. The majority chose personal mastery, which involves self-growth and learning. There were 2 5%, and they consisted of mental models and team learning. Systems thinking came in at 15%, and shared vision came in at 10%. Thank you all for that. We'll move on to the next slide, please. Mapping values to framework. When we align leadership values with these frameworks, we begin to see accountability as something that is teachable and repeatable. For example, building people up connects people with personal mastery and encouraging the heart. It encourages leaders to help others reach their best potential. Loyalty and trustworthiness align with shared vision and modeling the way. These create clarity and consistency across any organization. Open communication is tied to team learning and enabling others to act. When people feel like they are being heard, they contribute more ideas, they come up with more solutions. Commitment to quality reflects systems thinking and challenging the process because strong systems produces strong results. Finally, challenging assumptions speak directly to mental models and inspiring a shared vision as it pushes leaders to question what's possible. When these elements come together, they create a self-sustaining culture where accountability fuels improvement and learning fuels innovation. Next slide, please. We have reached our third poll where we want to focus here on leadership practice focus. I want everyone to take a minute just to pause and think about where you would like to be as a leader. Awareness opens the doors for growth and creates clarity in your leadership direction. Okay, the results are in. Looks like the vast majority felt like their best practice will come in with leaders who build people up and mentor. Next up will be leaders who model trust and accountability. At 14%, there were leaders who communicate openly. And lastly, leaders who create a shared commitment to quality. Thank you all so much for responding to poll 3. And now I will turn the presentation over in the hands of Dr. Booker.
Thank you so much. Let's take a look at practical strategies. Now, when we move forward from theory to practice, here are a few ways to model accountability and build a culture of learning in your organization. Create opportunities for quick connection, hold brief check-ins to discuss progress, challenges, or lessons learned. These conversations build trust and uncover improvement opportunities. Encourage reflection. Ask your team, what works well this week? And why would we do something different next time? This shifts the focus from mistakes to learning. Be transparent. If a goal is not met, talk about it. Ask the why and the what. What can we adjust? People respect honesty far more than perfection. Lead by example. Deliver on your promises. Be punctual and follow up. Now, these small acts, they communicate reliability more than policy. Celebrate efforts as well as achievements. Recognition builds morale and reinforces the idea that consistency matters just as much as success. Implementing these strategies doesn't require a budget or a title. It requires awareness and intention. The more leaders model accountability, the more others begin to do the same, transforming it from an individual action into an organizational habit. Next slide, please. Ripple effects of intentional leadership. Intentional leadership creates visible ripples that move beyond one team into a larger organization. When leaders model clarity, fairness, and steady follow-through, communication becomes easier and people mirror those behaviors in their own roles. Trust increases because expectations are consistent and transparent. Engagement arises. Team members feel comfortable sharing ideas and taking initiatives. Now, over time, these little small, reliable actions accumulate into measurable improvements in workflow collaboration and even morale. The most important outcome is that learning becomes routine rather than rare, and progress becomes part of our daily work instead of a separate task. Next slide, please. Implications for practice. Accountability influences how we hire, onboard, coach, evaluate, and recognize people. Now, in education, it's consistent feedback, clear rubrics, and supportive coaching for both the students and the faculty because they grow with that confidence. In healthcare and corporate America, it shows as reliable hands-off, closed-loop communication, and leaders who model accurate documentation and timely follow-up. This means building short learning huddles into your weekly schedule, using simple reflection prompts, and tracking small wins so teams can see their growth. Next slide, please. Let's look at some takeaways. Accountability is a daily behavior that shapes culture. People learn best in environments where they feel trusted, respected, and supported. Value guides action, and action create results. Let me say that again. Values guide actions, and action create results. Start small, be consistent, make learning visible with quick check-ins, clear expectation, genuine recognition. Keep your focus on progress, not perfection. When leaders model this approach, teams respond stronger with communication and pride in their work. The goal is a culture where continuous learning is normal and everyone plays a part in sustainability. Now I'm going to turn you back over to Dr. Hill and she'll close us out.
You all come back on camera here. There I am. You all have done such a great job on really inspiring us. Oh, my poll popped back up. There we are. There I am. On inspiring us to really kind of take a moment and pause and think about how we're going to work on ourselves while also building up others. So I love that. I'm going to pause and ask the audience if they have any questions. Feel free to come on and use the chat feature for that, or you can unmute your microphone. We've opened up that option and you can ask our presenters any sort of questions. Presenters, if you have any additional resources that you would like to put in the chat box, now would be a great time to do so. Do you have any final takeaways as we're waiting for those questions to come in to leave? If all of you want to leave one little nugget of knowledge to our audience members, that would be great. Yolanda, I believe you're muted.
I was sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sounds loud and clear.
Thank you so much. So as we close, we want to leave you with this thought. Accountable leadership is contagious. When one person models responsibility, it gives others permission to do the same. Over time, that creates a culture where learning is natural and progress is constant. Remember, accountability is not about control, it's about empowerment. When people feel trusted, supported, and encouraged, they stop waiting for direction and start taking ownership of solutions. This is where growth happens, when people move from compliance to commitment. True accountability means showing up consistently, especially when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. It means making space for reflection, feedback, and grace, because accountability without empathy can't sustain learning. The more we connect those dots, the stronger our team becomes. We encourage you to carry today's insights forward. Have those conversations that need to happen. Celebrate those small wins and continue modeling what accountability looks like in real time. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we appreciate your time, your openness, and your commitment to building environments where accountability is not just about talk, it's lived, visible, and transformative every day.
I love that. I'm sure you can read the chat where there are tons of accolades coming in. So Instructor Hill, amazing. Dr. Stasher Booker, amazing. And Professor McMeans, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes. So audience, thank you for your participation in today's session. Please be sure to use the survey linked in the chat to nominate your TLC presentations. This one's up. The survey link is there for you to go and have your voice heard up for some conference awards, and just share your feedback on this session for Dr. Stasher Booker, Instructor Hill, and Instructor McMeans. And we'll continue to monitor the chat for the rest of the time, but for the rest of you, have a great night, and thank you so much for your attendance in this session.